Last video about black Hebrew Israelites, we addressed the belief system that the black Hebrew Israelites maintain. Jesus Christ in his heavenly form is Negro. Jesus Christ is black. His hair is white like a black man who's aged. His skin is black. We got rid of that belief system by addressing the fact that John saw Jesus Christ in a heavenly fashion, and he described his feet as bronze, as though they were polished polished by a burning furnace. Basically, in Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15, John describing Jesus in an inhuman, supernatural way, realizing that Jesus Christ in his it is not human, took on humanity. So we talked about that. We also talked about Deuteronomy 28:68, which is a major verse that the Hebrew Israelites use to say that the black man in America, the Negro in America, can actually be identified as the original Jew because of the afflictions and all the curses, not bearing any of the blessings, which is the indication of who the Jews are or who the Hebrews are, but just the curses, as though the curses could not have befallen anybody. Anybody can get shot. Not everybody can look like the individual looks. So anybody can get kidnapped. Anybody can be induced into slavery if the situation is right. So the belief system there is that the black man in America is the original Jew, and Jews were all black. And so I happened upon a conversation between black Hebrew Israelites and the black man, and they were trying to teach this man that he was actually one of the original 12 tribes of Israel, one of the descendants, and that the Bible was written by Negro people, and that the scriptures validated in a clear sense that the Negroes are actually the original Jews. Now, this message is not to negate the reality that the people of God in their ethnic form, as far as the Hebrew people, this is not to negate that they may have been a people of color. We're all people of color. Whether you're a peach or brown or yellowish or purple, we're all people of color. And we all understand that depending on where the Hebrew people were, the likelihood is over time, depending on how long they've been there, there was an effect on their complexion, on their hair texture. But you've got a variety of types of the true Hebrew that are still out there. So they're not necessarily one way or another way. But the black Hebrew Israelite belief system, and there is a list that they make out when, and anytime a black Hebrew Israelite tries to make you believe that the Negroes in America are the tribe of Judah, the Haitians are the tribe of Levi, the Puerto Rican are from Ephraim, ask them to show you some proof. There is absolutely no historical proof, nor can they by any means track that historically. It is totally conjecture, totally supposition. It's a lie. But they were handling this young man by opening the scriptures, pointing to verses that said that the author of that particular text was black, and saying to this individual, see, the Jews were black, or the Hebrews are black. See, we're black, you're black, we're exclusive, we're special. God came to us, right? We're all black, and this guy is black. Turn to another verse. You see, he's black. Turn to another verse. And they weren't even trying to read around the text. Let's look at some of these texts they were reading from. Job chapter 30, verse 29 through 31. Job 30, 29 through 31 says, I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. My harp also is turned to mourning, and my organ into the voice of them that weep. So they pulled out that 30th verse where it says, my skin is black. They shut the Bible, or not so much shut the Bible, they shut that passage and immediately went to another passage, disregarding the simple reality that God has provided, in his word that Job was lamenting his oppression, his condition, his affliction. He was lamenting his affliction by saying that he was a brother to dragons. He was a friend to owls. His skin was black and his bones are burned with heat. This is not saying that Job was Negro in any stretch of the imagination. By no means is that verse saying that he's black as you see me, or as some would classify me, or those who look like me. This has absolutely nothing to do with the complexion of Job. This has to do with his lamentation, his words of mourning because of his personal affliction. They used that verse. Another verse they went to, and it's a very popular verse that the black Hebrew Israelites use. It's the Song of Solomon, where the Shunammite, the woman, the Shulamite, she's talking to, there's this dialogue between Solomon and the Shulamite, and they're going back and forth. The beautiful woman, this is what she says. They say that it's actually Solomon talking, when in reality it's the Shulamite, it's the female talking. And in Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 5 and 6, she says, I am black, but beautiful. They shut the verse there and said, oh, see, Solomon was black. And even though it's the female talking, she says, I am black, but beautiful, O you daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. So obviously Solomon is not talking. It's her talking. She's saying she's black as the tents, as the curtains, not like Solomon is. She's black like Solomon's curtains. She tells why she's black. First of all, she thought it fit to let them know that she was black, different than those who would read, other Hebrews. So she is telling them that she's black, oh, you daughters of Jerusalem. If the Jews were black, then the daughters of Jerusalem would also be black. She thought it necessary to say, I am black, oh, you daughters of Jerusalem, but beautiful. I'm black, but I'm beautiful. Look at what it says in verse 6. Look not upon me because I'm black. So she's obviously different. Now the question is, was she ethnically Negro? Let's look at what it says. Because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. So here she's saying that she's dark-skinned because of the sunshine, not because of her ethnic makeup. And she's different than her siblings, different than the other inhabitants of Jerusalem. That they used to say that Solomon was black, to say that the Jews were black. Jeremiah chapter 8:21. For the hurt of the daughter of my people, I am hurt. I am black. Astonishment has taken hold of me. See, he's black. That's not what it was saying. He's using that as a phrase of affliction. He's saying, I am black. Astonishment has grabbed me. I am hurt because of the affliction my people are under. I am black. He's using it as a negative expression of pain. Lamentation, they use this one. Lamentation 5:9. We got our bread with peril of our lives, we're in danger, because of the sword of the wilderness. Verse 10, our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. It had nothing to do with their complexion or their ethnic group. They ravaged the women of Zion, the maids in the cities of Judah. And so it is not true that the Bible in those passages at least tells us that the black man is the original Jew or the Hebrew. It is false. It's totally wrong. It's an intentional abuse, misuse of the scripture by the black Hebrew Israelites. They still do that to this very day. Not one of those texts, not one text validates in a clear fashion at least that the original Jew was Negro. Even if he's darker skinned like the present day Arabs or Israelis that are over there now, he was not like the black American. This is what we're addressing. We're addressing black Hebrew Israelites that are propagating this belief system that the original people of God were black, therefore only the blacks or those that they indicate can be saved or can be redeemed. The second argument they make is that Jesus Christ came to reestablish the law of Moses. He came to solidify the law of Moses. He came to basically transfer the law of God from the old covenant to the new covenant, but the old covenant is still in full effect except for where they would pick and choose to institute it. They institute the fact that they can have multiple wives because that was a tradition that was picked up in the children of Israel's day, even though that was not the original standard that God set. They used the dietary laws. But did Jesus Christ really come to reestablish the old law given by Moses? Look at Matthew chapter 5, 17 and 18. Matthew 5, 17 and 18. There is there's an abuse, there's a misuse, there's a twisting of Jesus' words when it comes to the black Hebrew Israelites' belief. When it said that he came to fulfill the law, the Seventh-day Adventists twist this in the same way. He said, and many Messianic Jews, many of them, not all of them, many Messianic Jews twist these words by abusing and misusing the word fulfill. Look at what it says in Matthew 5, 17 and 18. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise or in no way pass from the law till all be fulfilled. The question is, when was the fulfilling, and what does the word fulfill mean? It really means to level up, to make finished. Meaning your parent gives you an obligation. Did you fulfill the obligation? Fulfilling the obligation doesn't mean that you got rid of the obligation and that you didn't do it and that you debunked it and said it was false. No, it meant that you completed, you accomplished the obligation. Jesus came to accomplish the requirements of the law. Jesus came to fulfill the requirements of the law. So, Jesus Christ, as a Hebrew, obeyed the law because it was in effect until his death. Jesus obeyed the law until his death, because his death was the establishment of a new covenant. And that's exactly what he said at the Last Supper when he actually partook of the Last Supper. I was conversing with a Hebrew Israelite some while ago, and he said Jesus didn't even partake of the Last Supper, that Jesus didn't partake of the Passover because he was the Passover. Totally twisting the scriptures. Said he would get back to me, said he would get back to his elders, because they were the ones that were going to help him understand this verse, because they too were believing this stuff that was not true. Jesus Christ was a Hebrew, and so he obeyed the Hebrew law, just like he obeyed the fact that he needed to get baptized into John's baptism so that he could fulfill all righteousness, meaning complete it, fulfill the obligation of it. That's what he said at the cross, folks. It is finished. It is fulfilled. I have finished the work my Father gave me to do. That's what he said. I finished the work. So Jesus came to do a work. Jesus Christ taught the kingdom of God, or he taught the kingdom as God's truth, and in many cases replaced what the Father revealed through Moses. So the same thing that the Spirit of God revealed through Moses and revealed through other men of old, Jesus Christ came to replace it with the true standard, because the Father's standard was limited to the people he was speaking because of different reasons. But the Father was going to unveil everything necessary for life and godliness, this grace and truth through Jesus Christ. So the Father gave them a limited knowledge of his truth. Jesus came and took it to an increased kingdom of heaven level. Jesus Christ did not come to say his Father's laws given to Moses were not true. Jesus Christ came to establish a new standard because the old standard was insufficient. Men could not be redeemed by the blood of bulls and goats. And that is how that old standard was established, through animal sacrifice, all the way back into Noah's day. And matter of fact, into Cain and Abel's day. So we understand that animal sacrifice was the establishment of this old law. And Jesus came to give a new standard, and so he came to complete the standard that was in effect, having obeyed it. But let's talk about the fact that he actually replaced the old standard and did not teach the old standard as the standard they were about to transition into at all. You cannot find in an exclusive fashion, you cannot find it where Jesus actually just came to say what was said. He did not teach the dietary laws. Let's get into this. Number one, Jesus, in Matthew 5, verse 21 through 22, he transitioned the law into the New Testament. His teaching was not only that you shouldn't kill, but that you shouldn't be angry without just cause. That was not what was in the Old Covenant in the way that Jesus taught it. He says, you have heard it said, but I say. But is to negate what he just said. You have heard it said this, but I say. It's a transitional statement, transitional phrase. Okay? And so he transitioned it from not killing to not being angry unjustly. Matthew 5:27-28. He transitioned the standard of God from not being sexually active with a married woman or with a married man to not even considering it in your heart. He said, you have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, if you look on a woman to lust after her, you've already done it in your heart. That was a transitional statement. Now saying this is what it used to be, I am saying this. If he was actually just coming to reiterate the law of Moses, he didn't do it. That's not what he taught. In point number 3, in Matthew 5:31-32, he took it from you being able to divorce your wife, which Moses got from God to give to the children of Israel because of their hardness of heart, which is why the law was written, because of sin. He transitioned it from casual divorce to divorce only in the sense of sexual infidelity, fornication. So he said that it used to be allowed where you could divorce your wife for any cause. But I say unto you, replacing what they did know as the standard. Number 4, in Matthew 5:33-37, he said it used to be that you could only make oaths to God. I'm saying don't make any oaths, don't make any swearings, don't make any promises at all. It comes from an evil source. He says don't do it. The law lets you do it. I'm saying you can't do it anymore. How is that just reiterating what the law stated? Number 5, he took the ability to take lawful revenge and said you can't do it anymore. In Matthew 5:30-42, he says it. He says, but you've heard it said that, you should love your neighbors and hate your enemies. Or you've heard it said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, don't resist evil. If a man slap you on one side of your face, give him the other side to slap that too. He was speaking in the sense that you can no longer avenge yourself. It used to be expected that men were supposed to avenge themselves so as to clear up defilement from the land. He said you can't do that anymore. So this is different than what the law God the Father gave through Moses to do. As it relates to dutiful aggression, combat of an enemy, he took it from dutiful aggression and from legal combat, hating your enemy, to mercy, love, and compassion. He says, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who despitefully use you. He's transitioning it from the old into the new, and he was that transitional point. He took it out of the hands of men. Number 7, he took it from the truth revealed through Moses and the prophets to himself being truth. Matthew 7:24-29, he says, he that hears my words. But what about Moses and the prophets? They were in existence. They had those texts. They would be learning those things in the synagogue each Sabbath. He said, if you don't hear what I am saying, you're going to be crushed by the elements. Your foundation is going to be gone. He didn't come to reestablish what Moses said. He came to give a new law, a new covenant, a new commandment. This is the new covenant in my blood, is what Jesus himself said. So his fulfilling of the law was actually a completing of God's expectation. He completed it. It is no longer active. What Jesus said is now the revelation we are going to be held accountable for. Number 8, he replaced observance of the Sabbath with faith in Jesus Christ alone. He said the Son of Man is Lord over the Sabbath, or Lord also of the Sabbath. I'm Lord over the Sabbath. I am Lord of the Sabbath also, meaning the Sabbath is subject to me. Man was not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man. Man was not made subject to the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made to support man in man's pursuit of God. And Jesus Christ was God in the flesh. In Matthew 12:1-97, he replaced it. He let his disciples pick corn and rub it in their hands and eat it. He let them do that, knowing it was the Sabbath day, knowing. And he didn't say, oh, well, I didn't know it was the Sabbath. No, he said, well, David did something that wasn't legal. He went in, and what did he do? He took some of the showbread, he ate it. And what was he doing? He was replacing the mentality replacing the standard the Father set through Moses and revealing the standard the Father was now setting through the Son. That's what Hebrews 1 tells us. God in the time past, God who at different times and in diverse manners spoke unto the fathers by the prophets, Moses was a prophet, has in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. So Jesus and his words are the new standard. He replaced observance. For those of you that observe the Sabbath, you observe the Sabbath every time you submit to Jesus Christ. Every time you submit to Jesus Christ on a Wednesday, you're observing the whole righteousness of the Sabbath. Anytime you submit to him by setting aside time to worship the Father daily, you're observing the Sabbath. The Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. He's Lord of that. So when you give your heart to Jesus, you are actually completing the righteousness God expected by setting the Sabbath as a standard for you. So he replaced that observance. He replaced it. It is not even taught as the new standard. It is not a part of the new standard. Jesus Christ alone is the standard. Number 9, Matthew 15, 10 through 20, and Acts 10, 9 through 18. Jesus changed the dietary defilement from physical cause to spiritual cause. He was basically saying eating an unclean animal like pork is no longer the source of defilement. The dietary laws are no longer in effect as it relates to defilement or being unclean. Now what comes out of the man is going to be the basis of uncleanness. Now you may say, well, when you reference Matthew 15, 10 through 20, he was talking about eating with dirty hands. He covered it all when he said it's not what goes into a man because your body processes it and you get rid of it. So eating with dirty hands is not an issue. But he furthered that perspective in the book of Acts when he revealed to Peter, rise, Peter, eat all of these animals, kill them and eat them. Peter knew that these were unclean animals. He called them unclean in the presence of God. And God said, I've cleansed them. What I've cleansed, don't call common. Even though that was speaking about the Gentiles, which would come to Peter for the knowledge of God, he used a natural fact that he had cleansed these animals. Through his shed blood, now all things are clean unto you if the inward part is clean. To the pure, all things are pure. And so the reality is he was changing dietary defilement from a physical cause like food or dirty hands to spiritual causes like an evil eye, blasphemy, hatred. And we know the Hebrew Israelites as teachers and preachers are full of hatred by the way that they express themselves, most of them, not all of them. John 5, verse 1 through 18. Jesus actually was accused, and he never went against the fact that he was accused of breaking the Sabbath, number 1, by working a miracle, and number 2, by commanding the healed man to carry his bed. Jesus knew it was the Sabbath. Jesus knew it was not legal for this guy to carry his bed. Jesus said, take up your bed and go to your house. And they caught the man doing that which was illegal, and he said, the Lord told me to do it. They said, who is it? Who was this the one that told you to do it? And when he found that it was Jesus, they were upset with him. And Jesus didn't say, no, I didn't break the Sabbath. Jesus knew that he was transitioning the Sabbath from the standard to himself. So as far as he was concerned, he could do whatever good thing he wanted to do on any day of the week. And as long as those people were subject to him, they were subject to the truth of God. And so he did not establish the Sabbath. As a matter of fact, he always pushed the envelope, pushed the limits of what they knew to be right, because he was transitioning, fulfilling the law. So he definitely did not reestablish what Moses said. He fulfilled it. He accomplished it in himself and fulfilled it. And he replaced it with the new standard, and he taught the new standard as the standard by which men would be judged. So the breaking of the Sabbath by working a miracle and commanding the healed man to carry his bed home on the Sabbath day. What was he doing? He was instituting the new covenant. And lastly, in John chapter 8, he forgave a prostitute, disallowing her from being lawfully stoned. She should have been stoned. He had no right in the natural sense to tell them that you can only stone her under these standards. The Father didn't set those standards through Moses. The Father was setting those standards through the Son. It's through the Son that you have life. I'm going to end this particular portion of this here just so that we can understand it's the Son of God, Jesus Christ, that gives you life. If the Son, therefore, will make you free, you will be free indeed. And so put your trust in the Son. Renounce the self-righteousness that you get from trying to believe that in your ethnicity there's salvation. There's salvation in no other. It's only at the name of Jesus, for there is no other name under heaven whereby men can be saved. And so seek the Lord while he may be found. Renounce racism, renounce pride, renounce all of these belief systems that contradict what Jesus said and what Jesus did. And if you give him your heart and you call on him, if you believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, surrender your life to him and devote your life to following him according to his words, you will be saved.